So we're getting close to wrapping up here in the content we're currently utilizing. Radical Edge by Stephen Farber. We are now in the reunion, scenes 31 through 35-ish. Not sure where it wraps up. And you had a lot of very interesting things going on here and a lot of higher level thinking. So that being said, man, I love hearing from you guys first and foremost. So Nafritha, your mic is hot. I'm used to you having hot things to say. I don't see it on the screen, though.
She was just talking to me.
So who else has something from the content?
I do, but I'm in the kitchen. I have to go to the couch.
Awesome. All right, guys, the floor is yours.
It's pretty. Whoops.
It is pretty. There you go, Jeanette. Welcome back.
It's pretty amazing just to see all the pieces come together, and the interaction. These people are not that far apart physically, as well as mindset, spiritually, whichever. You find the people that when you start looking and find your frequency, if you, as however you want to say that, find your calling, find your frequency, just being the best you know how to be in your moment while you're growing into the next moment. And, miracles happen, challenges come through, and it's like I said, we know already we're not an island. We're never separate. And even this, just thinking about what this little group, what we're doing, what will come out of this? Because there shall be things that come out of here, because we can't stay the same after being together and reading the books and getting the information and all those kinds of things. So,
well, there's some fun pieces of that come up in the group conversations that I'm going to leave to you guys. And yet, let's just jump right into chapter 31, because I love how he's reflecting on his interactions with Cam, which took him to his conversation and thoughts about his daughter, Angelica, talking about her 17th birthday and how Angelica was this interesting combination of extrovert in the places she was comfortable and introvert in the places she wasn't. And so mom and dad made this decision, hey, we're going to send you to see family in Italy for your 17th birthday. And the interesting process, as they were having these conversations, setting up Steve's realization, in fact, him and his wife, we came to realize that we had far more confidence in Angelica's abilities than she had in her own. And that we needed to create a situation where Angelica could prove herself to herself. So Italy it was. And I love, on the day of her departure, she was pensive, she was scared, and they walked down the airport ramp at San Francisco Airport to head off to the first leg to JFK. And when she got there, the gate had changed, the plan had changed, things had happened, and she picked up the phone and called and said, I'm in New York. I got here. I don't know what to do, and I'm ready to come home. I'm ready to retreat. I'm ready to go back to what's comfortable. And, again, as she sorted that out and then got off to the next spot in Italy, in Milan, almost the same conversation. And each step along her growth journey of getting from San Francisco Airport to finally the relative's home, each step had a difficulty, and each step had a moment where she didn't believe, and each step had a moment where she borrowed somebody else's belief. So just know when you're in those steps that you're looking to retreat, man, how interesting this content yesterday and a conversation I had last night with a dear friend in the room. Because each step you're thinking a retreat is the time to reach out to someone, have a conversation, ask for help to continue on your journey. Miss Beth, you've had that mic hot. What do you got, my dear?
Well, I've got a question for the group. I finished the book and I realized, or at least I felt like, that each one of the characters was almost aspects of one person, right? I saw myself in Kim. I saw myself in Steve. I saw myself in Edge. You know, sometimes we really have it dialed in and we know what we're talking about, and we are nailing it. Sometimes we're completely scared to do anything new, and somebody else has got to kick our asses, right? So I saw myself and Angelica, and I felt like at the end of the book, it all kind of came together, and I realized, you know, none of this is separate from us, right? It's all, we recognize, and we're compelled to relate to these characters because we see those aspects in ourselves. Maybe I'm way off base, but I thought that was really interesting.
Well, the fun part is you can't be off pace when you're looking at it through your own lens and talking about your experience.
That's right.
Right? And I appreciate about you that you're willing to be vulnerable, authentic, show up. And by the way, I don't think you're off base otherwise either. What else you guys have?
Okay, I'll come back again where they start talking about, they're talking about changing the world is ultimately our responsibility, although not at the expense, not at the expense of other aspects of our lives. And we're living our normal lives, but we have a different attitude with it. So the first thing you do is define what that world is that you want to impact. It doesn't have to be a huge world. It doesn't, we get intimidated going, how are we going to affect the world? You don't. You just be who you are, where you are, and the best that you can be with the people that you're with. And then on page 133 here, the second guideline, act as though every action has a direct impact on the world. In other words, you should perform every deed as if it will either improve the world or damage it. And he said, but that's not true, he argued. He said, but act as though it is. So again, our mindset, we're going to get what we think with it. So act, again, act. And that was yesterday's reading. Third, huge, don't judge yourself based on the outcome of your efforts. Some days we plant the seeds, some days we're harvesting them. Some days we're just putting water on the tree. Again, we define the world. We get clear on how we want to change the world, how we act through all of our actions and make it happen. And then sometimes you succeed and sometimes you bomb, or maybe you don't, you just feel like you do. But you never, never, ever judge yourself based on the outcome. And you don't take credit and you don't blame yourself. Finally, number 4, as we're doing here, never, never, ever try to do it alone. And it's a lot of us, whether we're at EXP, whether we're in families, whatever groups we have, it's not about doing it alone. And I haven't purposefully been a loner. But I love interacting with people. I love helping. And yet at the same time, I just, in some ways, being the oldest, when there's the other little kids around, it's kind of like you're an only child in some ways. And everybody's got that in their life. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just observing. It helped me with a lot of independence, and sometimes you need to learn how to be, how to integrate with a team in a better way. So I'm excited about doing even more of that.
Well, here's my favorite part of these 4 steps: the never do it alone. Most of the time we're thinking about who do we need above us to help us, or who do we need around us to help us. Well, I also want to challenge you. It also can be, who do you need to lead? Who do you need to bring in and help? I've got the world that I want to change, which is my real estate partners everywhere on the planet. I've got the methodology and models that I want to use here in this company. And so I've been putting together this group with my 9. Many of those are here in this room, as they should be every day. And I'm asking those 9 to find their 5 ultimately over the next 12 months. See, we can be getting our vision, being so inspired and passing it down that other people get the same. And the greatest example of that, by the way, and I'm not being religious, I'm just using it mathematically. Jesus Christ got us 12 that now cover like 25, 30% of the planet. That's pretty wild. All on the same concept of get your group, hold them together, pour into them, and keep able to pass it down. Celeste, I see your mic's up, my dear. What do you got?
Well, mine is in regards to the WUP, wake up pad, which, by the way, I now will never forget because we couldn't remember the P in my mentoring session. Why is that important? Well, because what it's doing is it's taking those moments that I find challenging and making me make a note of what was going on that was upsetting or frustrating or whatever the words are, that were the moment where it was challenging. And then I'm taking the time to listen to what I'm upset about and realizing it's all coming down to me changing my own systems such that I don't find myself constantly going through this challenge. And what's great about it is the ownership of the issue. I'm not putting it, or at least I have been putting it on someone else. You're not doing this right. You're doing this not the way it should be done. And in keeping it is just showing me that I can be a better realtor by changing my systems. And one of them is expecting that someone's not going to do something correctly. Just taking the time to say, okay, I know they're going to not do it correctly, or they're maybe not going to finish what I would like to see done. Having something in my own systems that say, okay, this happens, now I need to do this. And so it's actually quite empowering because I'm not dwelling in the negative. I am expecting that things aren't going to go like the way I want them to. And how am I building into my own schedule something that I can do that just simply ensures things are done right?
So, Celeste, can we have a little fun? Because I love this.
Sure.
I love where you're going in your thought process of acknowledging that shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Things are going to go wrong. It's okay. It's part of the journey. So here's the fun part. Right now, you're looking at it through the lens of business in this moment, right?
Yes.
Can we also agree that same energy, attitude, and acknowledgement might help in every other aspect of our life as well? How often do we hold the people closest to us to a higher standard, and the moment they slip up in any way in our mind, anyway, can be something as simple as leaving the toilet seat up.
Yeah.
We go into judgment rather than, like you say, acknowledging that, you know what, we're all human. We are perfectly imperfect. And every one of us, no matter what the relationship and roles are, mistakes are going to happen. By the way, we should be doing the same thing for our leaders as well, giving them that grace. And Lord knows I'm learning that as we sit here.
Do you know, I originally came at this with the understanding that they aren't doing something correctly. And it's interesting that just this little window of our conversation is letting me aware, how am I not being the better person? How am I not, maybe I'm lax in something, and how would I want to be treated when it comes to something maybe I didn't do right? And so, boy, that like this little thread can be a game changer in your life. Just being aware you are not always who you think you are.
In this moment, I want to put in for all of you guys, you might want to write it down, my 3-step process, my 3-step analysis when something goes awry, of how we look at it through this lens that Celeste is talking about. So number 1, let's just say hypothetically your assistant or virtual assistant misses something on paperwork. Awesome. Step 1, do I have a system? In other words, do I have a contracted closed system that's been written and documented for that individual to follow? If there's no system, we can't expect them to get it right because we haven't defined what the heck it is. Number 2, is there a missing or broken process in that system? So my vision is a system is just a series of small steps that I call processes. I look at it through the lens of being a pilot. When we do a pre-flight inspection of an aircraft, that's a system, and it's got step by step everything we should look and check and how it should be done. And here's the fun part for all of you guys on this piece. With everything around aircraft, there is a system, which is a series of processes. How do you think, what motivates a change in those systems?
A crash.
Exactly. A crash goes and analyzes, okay, where was the breakdown? And then all of a sudden, whether it's on the ground or in the air or in the cockpit or in the maintenance, there's a system that a process needs to be adjusted. And so it's constant. Think about this in our lifetime. How many planes used to fall out of the sky for one reason or another, and now how few do because of systems and processes for everything. So if I have a system, if I have a well-defined process where an error was not made, only then does it become step 3, a people problem.
That's right.
Simple way to get there where you're now owning all of it. It's the ultimate accountability where you as a leader are looking at everything through that lens first, because you should have everything distilled down in life, especially in business, that a trained monkey could do it. The reality is, guys, a trained monkey could repair a jet engine now because of the level of detail of every checklist. And I'm just optimistic we never see that, because I don't think we'd sit well with that. We saw that out on the tarmac crash. Beth, you've been sitting, Mike, what do you got, my dear?
It goes both ways, right? Celeste, you said, you feel bad when you don't do things the way you thought they should be done. If you go back to the process, maybe there isn't one. Maybe you didn't build a process yet. And it's like, oh my God, it's just the lack of process. It has nothing to do with you as the human.
That epiphany came to me this morning. That was the whole thing. I've done this business 35 years and found myself complaining. I had another word for it, but just the word complaining about when someone disappoints my standard of what I thought would be considered normal. And my normal must not be so normal for others. And to face that and realize it's not going to always be something I can control, but I can control what happens next. And that's what it just was wonderful. And I know it sounds kind of funny because for 35 years, I've gone through this, when someone does something stupid, I'm like, what? But then I think, well, why didn't I do something about it? Why didn't I take a process, a step to say, I'm adding this into my systems? And one of them could be something as simple as Go check on that property. Don't rely that they left the home the way that you think it should have been left. That, in my mind, is so freeing, because now I know that's all it is. It's me. I
That's
have to be
right.
that next step.
That's right. And as a leader, it goes up and it goes down. So when I managed lots of body shops, I had hundreds of people under me. It was 98% failed processes. It was almost never the person. And when you're able to communicate up the chain as well, when you're not getting what you need from the people that are over you or leading you or ahead of you or whatever that looks like, share with them the process you need to be successful. It's just a process. You might be looking up at them going, God, that guy is such an idiot. He makes my life miserable. How many, maybe I'm the only one who's ever thought that. But when you tell them what you need, the process that you need, all of a sudden they give you the process, because it's much easier to deal with processes than it is to deal with emotions, right? People get all wound up in their emotions, but processes are just steps, right? You can give processes to the people so that they're successful either way, to our spouses, to the people above us, to the toilet seat offender. It works for everybody, and it has nothing to do with the people. It takes the judgment off the person and puts it where it belongs.
I am so going to have to let that go where Marcy continues to leave the toilet seat down. I promise to work on that. Nafritha, the floor is yours.
So I was writing down the steps of analysis, but I think I missed step number 3. So I got 1. Do I have a system in place? 2, is there a missing or broken process? What was 3?
3 is then, and only then, is it a people problem. Then you're going to have the conversation with the person. Because again, if the person had the system, which is all the processes, and they didn't do the process, what the hell happened? Because it's right there on the checklist. And if they did the process wrong, what happened where we didn't understand that process?
But you know what? Between step 2 and 3, Nafritha, I would add the word event. And then next to that, just say a crash happens. Because that's what the event is, the moment where you realize that even though you might have had a system and maybe there was a missing step, it's the event that triggers who are you talking about?
Well,
that
hold
person
on.
that's not following.
I'm going to break that, because the event happens at the top of the stack. Because if the person didn't do their job, the crash happened. If a missing process or a broken process or a wrong process or a wrong order of processes happened, we had a crash. If we didn't have a system at all, we had a crash.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So the crash is the trigger that causes the analysis to immediately go, okay, do we have a system? Yes. Do we have a process that addresses this issue? Yes or no? If yes, what is it? Did it get done? So no, just so you guys know, for every person on my team that is implementing a system, there is an actual checklist. You will see a 30-year pilot still walking around a plane with a pad marking that they did each item. Even though they know it, follow the checklist.
So I just wanted to make
That's
sure
what I want to see you guys have for yourselves, ultimately for the rest of your people.
that I got that right. But what I was thinking about listening to everybody talk and just kind of reflecting on what the book, for me, one of the main things that I get out of it is purpose, right? We talk about that idea of loving on everyone, kind of showing up as this thing. But I think one of the questions that I keep getting out of here is, what is your purpose, right? Or what is the mission statement? Or what are you here to do? And I think it helps when we can clearly identify what that is. and I'm learning. It takes time to identify what that is. Somebody brought it into the space that, right, these things can change over time. And so one of the things you guys know that I always do is kind of go and I define these things to kind of see, okay, what does this mean? So purpose is a person's overarching intention that is meaningful to them and has a positive impact on the world. Right. And I love that because this kind of is a perspective of my purpose is not just for me. Right. I'm not just here to sell houses. I'm not here to help people buy a house, right? It's deeper than that. What is that? Because I think that is more so like the surface level. Like Cam is like, I'm the best salesman in the world. And Angus is like, no, a little bit deeper, right? Who are you? What are you here to do? And I think it helps when we know that. Because when we know our purpose, or maybe in the discovery of that thing, we can find ways to borrow other people's perspectives, right? We said it earlier, borrowing the courage, borrowing the knowledge, going back to the mastermind. You don't have to know everything, but do you know someone that knows that thing that you don't know? How, and do you know what I'm learning? How to lean into those people, right? Because like Coach brought into the room, we have people around us, but are we utilizing it? And if I ask myself that completely, 100% no, right? So learning how to lean in, learning how to tap into somebody else's reservoir because yours is still being filled, right? How do we do that? So the purpose, and then act as though every act you make is contributing to either something, right? If you know the purpose, then you're more intentional about the act. Is this building on my purpose? Is this building on my mission? Is this act going to help me get closer, or is it going to pull me further away? And then the judgment piece, which I think is a big part, right? I think Janet brought it in, kind of allowing yourself to do these things, and probably even if you're going to analyze it, but you're leaving the judgment piece out. You're really just probably identifying, going back to the steps. Do I have these systems? Kind of breaking down that thing and not saying, I messed this up. Oh, this is shitty because I did this. No, kind of taking the self out. Well, what were the processes in place? Well, did I follow all the directions? Did I take all the steps? Did I show up in my best self where I could actually learn, grow, and give and serve in that same moment? And it made me think of this thing that I was listening to, Jim Rohn. He's amazing, right? Many of us listen to him. The other
Yep.
day I was listening to him. He says, same thing, mastering the art of acting as if everything works out for you, right? He says, acting as if, almost as we're acting as if we love everyone until something shows up. And then I wrote, act self. How can this work out for me? Instead of saying things are going horribly, right, Celeste? They're not showing up the way I wanted them to, or this didn't turn out how I planned it. So instead of saying that, how can this work out for me? Asking a different question. Then he says, what is the opportunity here? Oh, is this a learning lesson for me, for you, for us? Is there something that's supposed to be birthed in this moment that I don't know yet, that if I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't even think of it, right? Is it that? And then I also wrote down, see possibilities in every problem. That's what Jim Rome said. Find the solutions. He says, either you can find a solution, or you could be the one that finds the excuse. Which one is it? And then somebody, I don't know if it was this space, but somebody said, either you're going to, oh, that was in Fast Cap. Either you are going to regret not doing a thing, right? Or you're going to feel the pain of doing a thing and not doing it so well. So which pain do you want? The pain of regret, or the pain of knowing, well, I tried it. It wasn't perfect, but I did something. So it's our choice, because one way or another, we're going to feel the pain. So do you want to feel it now, or you want to feel it later? And what does that look like for you? And then the last part was just, success is about how you respond to failure and not avoid it. And that was for me. Sometimes I'm like, well, how do I prevent this? It's like, girl, just do it. You're going to fuck it up. It's okay. But you're
Yep.
learning something. Don't think about the other stuff, because the avoiding part is what's going to prevent you from even reaching that thing that is waiting just for you, right? Beth always brings this into the room. You have something unique about you that the world needs. Are
So
you giving it to
everybody
them?
stay put, because I
I'm
want
sorry.
you
Okay.
to bring this passion and keep doing it. Bring it a little earlier. I know we're over it. Here's why I want you guys to stay put. Tomorrow, Barber's going to join us. Steve is coming tomorrow. He'll be here in the room. So today we're going to finish the reading, and I want you guys coming ready to have a conversation. This is someone who is on stages in front of tens of thousands of people. This guy's kind of a big deal, and he's going to hang out with us and have a leadership conversation driven by you. So this is your time, to sit down with someone who knows really how to get the best out of people and is willing to give you that time. So please, 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 1, show up, 2, show up prepared, 3, today is your day to invite people. If you're looking to build your influence, you have an opportunity now to bring people in the room to have a conversation with the author about leadership and how that really should be showing up. I'm excited for tomorrow. We had a great conversation last year with Steve. It's Tuesday. So you guys also have this room for 3 hours from 2 to 5 Central, where you can be making those conversations and calls happen so we can be pouring into others. Just like this chapter said, it's all about the people around. Now you get to step up. In fact, as Nefritha said about this fear of taking action, today's the day to break through that and have conversation with agents and other business owners who could benefit from this and really crank up their leadership.